Hello and welcome to News Around the Globe on High Impact Television. I am Oluwaseun Olusegun. Let's take a look at our top stories. President Buhari is committed to ending insecurity. Vice President Osinbajo. Zambians march against corruption in government. Pakistan Prime Minister to meet U.S. President to mend ties. In entertainment, The Lion King rules box office with $185 million debut. And in sports, Morocco's football team head coach quits. And now for the news in detail. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo has stated that there are significant security concerns all over the country, but assured Nigerians that President Muhammad Buhari is committed to ending insecurity. President Muhammad Buhari is committed to improving security in Nigeria. Our nation will be peaceful and prosperous, Osinbajo stated yesterday on his Twitter handle. According to him, they have begun consultations with critical stakeholders to arrive at how to stem the tide of insecurity pervading Nigeria. The consultations, he said, were being done on the instruction of Buhari, and they have met with some traditional rulers eager to contribute to the improvement of the nation's security architecture. An aircraftman of the Nigerian Air Force, Bashir Umar, has returned the sum of 37,000 euros found in a parcel at the Hajj Camp Market in Kano State to the owner. Umar, who is a member of the NAF Mobile Air Defense Team deployed for airport security duties, found the parcel on Tuesday during a routine patrol with some of his colleagues, according to the Air Force in a statement on Sunday. The aircraftman, however, returned the money, which was said to belong to one Alhaji Ahmed, after calling a phone number he found on the parcel. Hundreds of people wearing yellow T-shirts have rallied in Zambia's capital, Lusaka, to kickstart a campaign against corruption in President Edgar Lungu's government. They demanded that the government use public funds for the poorest to provide for better schools and health care, and to ensure ministers do not end up with so many houses or individual executives with so much money. According to a protest spokesman, if government manages our taxes better, our whole lives would be better. So we are all citizens wondering if it is possible to improve our lives at all levels. The Catholic Church in the Democratic Republic of Congo is advocating for cleanliness, guiding their congregants to thoroughly wash their hands before the service in effort to fight Ebola hemorrhagic virus afflicting the country. The course of worship is also changing. Some practices are beginning to disappear in the name of the fight against Ebola. The World Health Organization has now declared the deadly Ebola outbreak an international health emergency. Voting will close later in the Conservative leadership contest, with the UK's next Prime Minister set to be announced on Tuesday. Party members will have until 17 British Standard Time to return their ballots for either Jeremy Hunt or Boris Johnson, who is regarded as the frontrunner in the contest. The winner and successor to Theresa May is due to take office on Wednesday. On Sunday, Philip Hammond told the BBC that he intends to resign as Chancellor if Mr. Johnson becomes Prime Minister. The Prime Minister would chair the government's emergency committee, COBRA, after a British flag tanker was seized by Iran in the Gulf. Theresa May is expected to receive updates from ministers and officials and discuss maintaining the security of shipping in the area. It comes amid reports ministers are considering freezing Iranian assets. Foreign Secretary Jeremy Hunt is expected to update MPs later on further measures that the government will take. On Sunday, the Foreign Office confirmed Mr. Hunt spoke with his French and German counterparts, who have both condemned Iran's actions. Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan is due to visit the White House for his first face-to-face talks with U.S. President Donald Trump. The meeting is part of a push to mend relations, which have been strained by the Afghan conflict. Mr. Trump reduced security aid to Pakistan early last year, accusing the countries of lies and deceit. However, Mr. Khan said U.S. assistance was minuscule compared to what the U.S.-led war on terror had cost Pakistan. His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi and Deputy Supreme Commander of the UAE Armed Forces, has arrived in the Great Hall of the People in Beijing, where he was accorded an official reception ceremony on the occasion of a state visit to China. At the outset of the ceremony, Sheikh Mohammed shook hands with senior Chinese leaders, ministers, and officials. Also, the Chinese president shook hands with the delegation accompanying Sheikh Mohammed. Israel has begun demolishing a cluster of Palestinian homes it says were built illegally too close to the separation barrier in the occupied West Bank. Hundreds of police and troops moved into Sur Bahar as bulldozers tore down structures set to house 17 people. Palestinians say it is an attempt by Israel to grab West Bank land. Israel's High Court had rejected appeals against the demolition order, saying the homes had been put up within a no-build zone next to the barrier. Puerto Rico's Governor Ricardo Rossello has said he won't stand for re-election next year after more than a week of protest calling for his resignation. A trove of sexist, homophobic, and other profane messages between Mr. Rossello and his team were published on 13th July. The chat also included derogatory references to singer Ricky Martin's sexuality and offensive comments about the survivors of Hurricane Maria. Hong Kong has been left in shock after a night of violence on Sunday, which saw dozens of masked men storm a train station. The men dressed in white shirts and suspected to be triad gangsters assaulted pro-democracy protesters and passers-by in the Yuen Long area. This is the first time this kind of violence has been seen in the ongoing anti-extradition demonstrations. Several lawmakers questioned why police were slow to arrive at the scene. And now in business and technology, trading on China's new Nasdaq-style technology board began today and got off to a good start. Most shares on the so-called star markets, operated by Shanghai Stock Exchange, surged on debut. Last year, China said it would launch the technology-focused trading board as it sought to build on Shanghai's role as a global financial hub. It marks a significant step in the country's bid to open its economy and markets. Asia stocks fell today as investors scaled back expectations of an aggressive Federal Reserve interest rate, while crude oil prices rose on heightened Middle East tensions following Iran's seizure of a British tanker. MSCI's broadest index of Asia-Pacific shares outside Japan was down 0.4%. Japan's Nikkei closed down 0.2% on the more tempered Fed, easing views and caution ahead of the domestic earnings season, which starts this week. The Shanghai's Composite Index was down 1%, but all eyes were on the debt of China's new Nasdaq-style stock tech board. It had a wild opening day as expected, with most firms surging and circuit breakers popping in early trade. India is set to reattempt the launch of its second lunar mission a week after it halted the scheduled blastoff due to a technical snag. Chandrayaan-2 will be launched on Monday, space agency ISRO said. It added the spacecraft was ready to take 1 billion dreams to the moon, now stronger than ever before. The space agency hopes $150 million mission will be the first to land on the moon's south pole. And now moving over to entertainment. Disney's The Lion King is dominating box office charts. Director Jon Favreau's remake of the animated classic collected a massive $185 million from 4,756 North American theaters during its first 3 days of release. In yet another win for Disney, the movie landed the best domestic launch for a PG film and set a new record for the month of July. That figure represents the second best domestic debut of the year, behind Disney and Marvel's Avengers Endgame, which is $357 million. The Buena Vista Company now holds 5 of the top 6 biggest movies of 2018 so far. And still in entertainment, Marvel Studios' superhero movie Avengers Endgame is sitting on the top of the global box office charts, distributor Walt Disney Co. said. Marvel chief Kevin Feige and team announced the milestone at San Diego Comic-Con late Saturday afternoon. Avatar, released in December 2009, held the international box office record for almost a decade since 2010, having earned the top spot by passing Titanic's previous record of $1.9 billion after just 41 days in theaters. It took Avengers Endgame a little over 3 months to beat Avatar's record. And finally, in sports, the French coach of the Moroccan national football team has announced his resignation. The announcement comes after the Atlas Lions were eliminated in the 16th round of the African Cup of Nations finals that has just concluded in Egypt. Hervé Renard's squad lost to Benin after a shock penalty. Mr. Renard posted on social media, "It is time for me to close this long and beautiful chapter of my life, not without a certain emotion and sadness, but it is an unavoidable decision taken well before the CAN 2019. And that's it on the news this afternoon. Before we go, here is a recap of the top stories. President Buhari is committed to ending insecurity. Vice President Osinbajo. Zambians march against corruption in government. Pakistan Prime Minister to meet U.S. President to mend ties. In entertainment, The Lion King rules box office with $185 million debut. And in sports, Morocco's football team head coach quits. For more news, updates, and educative programs, watch us live at www.highimpactstudios.com or follow us across all our social media platforms at High Impact TV. Thank you very much for staying tuned. I am Oluwaseun Olusegun. Good afternoon.